Hello there. Hi. Welcome, everyone. Thank you very, very much for joining me once again for Hathor Hosts. How are we all? Here we are in lockdown, and it is, ploughing on day after endless day. Are we all managing to keep our spirits up and staying happy and alert? I really, really hope so. I have an amazing guest tonight. I've had such fun researching Peter Kelamis, who I am hoping I'm going to be able to connect to right now. So this is so exciting, and thanks again everyone for tuning in. For those who are not used to it, you can, hello! Oh, look at him with the merchandising in the background. Hello! Do you see me? Peter,
I'm just messing with you. I'm messing with you because I watched Gary Jones trying to stumble his way through this the other day. And as I described it, it was like your grandfather signing up to Tinder. Did you see Jones, everybody? He was, oh, what do I do now? Yes, I like walks in the park. And I don't see anything. What do I hit? Send? Help me. Horrible.
Exactly.
Allow me
and
to
of
pour us
course,
a glass of wine. That's for
oh,
you. Okay.
yes.
There you go.
Please, because I'm not drinking, so I'm very boringly on the water. But I
I will drink for two. Yeah.
I love it. Drink for two, and then by the end of the interview, we'll be like,
Yeah, then it gets good.
mm-hmm. You know it. Well, how are you?
I'm good. I pretended that I just got out of the shower because I was dirty.
Oh, a dirty, dirty boy.
Yeah.
Hey, Russell Sabadir.
Plus,
hello.
hello. Plus, somebody sent me an email that it was a Jedi theme, and I don't know if it came from you. So,
no,
damn it.
Just, the force is strong within you, and I think we know why. We'll get to that later. So, yes, I was just saying, for those who are watching for the first time or who are new to Instagram Lives, the comments might obscure Peter's face, although I see he's excellently prepared for that. And I don't know, you seem like you're raised up or something, or maybe it's just your stature.
I'm trying, yeah.
The truth is you can just, can't see my fingers, scroll down once like that, and then that sort of reduces the comments to just the bottom line, if that's any help.
Okay. Yes.
So there you go. So it's not all like constantly, well, it'll still be running, but you'll just see the bottom bit, which is great.
Okay.
So with that, let's jump straight on in. Yasu.
Yes, we're starting with Little Greek. Very nice.
You were born in Australia, and then your family moved to Vancouver. What were you like as a kid?
I think I was a pretty fun kid. I used to do a lot of impressions and stuff and voices when I was a kid and jump in a lot of characters. I used to tape with my little cassette recorder, like Monty Python episodes, and then play the back on the cassette recorder and like do all the voices. Right. And I would watch shows with like the Carol Burnett show and things like that, where people like Tim Conway would be doing all these impressions, and I would imitate him doing other people. So I was doing like Richard Nixon impressions when I was like in grade 3, not knowing who the hell he was.
One of my favorite things that I read about you, because of course, oh God, Carol Burnett, she's like a goddess to me.
Royalty.
Sorry.
No, royalty, like comedy royalty.
Absolutely. And the Carol Burnett show was a staple in our household when we eventually got television. In the beginning, though, it was always everyone around the radio and stuff. But I loved that somewhere I read that when you were little, you would do these Tim Conway impressions. And then you learned very quickly that actually by being funny, you could barter with it. So what would you do? If you tell us the kind of things that you would do.
Well, if we wanted to get taken for ice cream, I would saunter downstairs doing the Tim Conway old guy impression.
Could we have a bit of him
now? And saunter down the stairs, and then make my parents laugh, and then I would wear them down, and then they would take us for ice cream.
They'd be like, all right, enough.
Enough, yeah. I don't know whether it was whether they enjoyed it or they just wanted me to stop for God's sake, and that was their way to do it. I don't know when it was, but I learned quickly that laughs had a payday at the end. So I think it was a horrible lesson they taught me because look at where I am.
Yeah. Oh, we
Yeah,
have chimes.
someone's at my door. That's fine.
We have chimes. I love that. So obviously the arts were alive and well in your household with television playing and early influences of comedy. Did you know pretty early on, like what was the point where you went, that's what I'm going to do when I grow up?
Very early, since I could remember. Like I say, watching TV. I mean, I had both very Greek ethnic parents. So when you say the arts were alive, not really. We had a wooden spoon on the wall, and that was,
So where do you think it came from?
Well, I think television, because my dad would stay
Yeah.
up late watching TV, and I would try to stay up as late as I could with him. Sometimes I'd sneak in behind him, and watch like Benny Hill with him, not knowing, which for a kid may have been inappropriate, but I thought it was hilarious. And then he'd turn around and he's like, what are you doing up? And then off I'd go.
Doing a funny walk.
Yeah, but it really was television and watching comedians. I enjoyed it so much, and then going to school and making other kids laugh was like the best thing in the world. Like there was nothing better for me. So any chance I got, I was always the smallest kid in class. I had a December birthday, so I started school a little bit earlier. But they actually wanted me to start the following year, but my parents convinced them to let me in. So I was always the smallest kid around. So I was never the strongest or the fastest or anything like that. I was hopefully the most entertaining. So that's how I got attention.
Yeah. Well, you learn quickly, right? When you're the smallest or the youngest or the oldest, there's always something. And I remember very early on in my life, when I was about 13, I went to a new school, an all-girls school, and girls can be terrifying. And there was this really awful girl who was such a bully, who will remain nameless.
Sure.
But I can't remember what I did, but one day she was having a go at me, and I turned around and I said something, and it made everybody laugh. And I remember thinking, I have a superpower.
That's
I
right.
was like, yeah. So it's an amazing thing to be able to do that and just disarm people.
I have a very similar story where in the 6th grade, we'd actually moved back to Greece, and we only stayed for a year. It didn't work out. We moved back. But when we went there, I was enrolled in this English school in Greece. So it was a private English school, but there was a lot of international students from all over, people, businessmen with their families, and what have you. And I remember halfway through the year, this kid from New York went there because I guess his family moved there. And he was diehard New York, tough as nails in the 6th grade. He's like, what the hell are you looking at? What's the matter with you? And everybody was kind of scared of him, but I would just do it back to him. And I'm like, yeah, what's the matter with you? I'm going to bop you in the face. And then he started laughing. And then we became best friends, and I would just hate him constantly.
Yeah, perfect. So you're known, what is known in the industry as a triple threat, in that you are an exceptionally versatile actor. I have to say, we're going to get to your acting career in a little while, but God, I had fun researching you, because you have no two jobs that are the same. Each such variation, so many different things. You're a massively in-demand voice actor. You work a lot as a voice actor and have voiced some of the most iconic characters. And you are a stand-up, a celebrated stand-up. So we're going to start with stand-up.
Okay.
What the hell made you decide to do stand-up? Because that's a very different beast to just being like, hey, I'm going to be funny and make some jokes,
Well, again, starting from school, making people laugh, and then always, watching Saturday Night Live in its heyday in the 80s and 90s. I remember we would all watch Saturday Night Live, and then on Saturday, and then Monday morning, we would see each other at school, and then we would just recite like the funniest sketches that we saw the previous 2 days earlier. So it was that, being around that. And then in the 80s, early 80s, there was kind of the stand-up comedy explosion at the time. This is where your Ellen DeGeneres, Jay Leno's, Paul Reisers, Jerry Seinfeld, all of them.
Murphy, Richard Pryor. Well, Richard Pryor earlier, right? But
yeah, he was a little bit earlier, but still, he became even huge, even bigger then, playing stadiums and things like that. so I was watching all these people. So stand-up was like the rock and roll of the 80s and 90s.
Mm-hmm.
So I started getting into that. So when I went to UBC in 1986, they had a student comedy contest where you can go up and tell a joke at lunch hour. Every other Wednesday, they would hold this event at lunch. And you could tell a joke and win possibly $25, $15, or $10. And then I went and won $15 telling a joke. And then I would go back every week, like having written my own material. And the MCs were from a comedy club downtown, Punchlines. And then they started saying, you know, you should come down to amateur night and try your stuff there. And by that time, I had about 10 minutes of material. And I went down extremely well. And then I headlined the club within a year, which was pretty fast.
Yeah.
Just loved it. I love going down there. I love the people, the personalities, the quirkiness of all the stand-ups. You know, everybody came from kind of a varied background, but it was always something weird. You know, like the dad was in the military, so they traveled around and had to make friends quick. There was always some kind of personality trait that made them unique, and I just loved it. Much like film work, where everybody on set's interesting to me.
Yeah.
You know, and the crew too. You have these like really funny personalities, even when they're not. The grip will be a certain way, and the makeup people are always interesting to talk to. They're like the bartenders of set.
Yeah.
Hair and makeup. They're the ones that people go there and they go blah 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 blah. You tell them everything, and they know everything about everybody. Hair and makeup trailer. If you want to know some inside stuff, go there.
That's true. And what happens in the makeup trailer stays in the makeup trailer.
Yes.
I'm wondering though, did you never have any sort of nerves about doing stand-up? You just kind of jumped off that cliff and soared, it seems.
Yeah, no, I was petrified. I would go over my sets at home in front of a mirror, you know, 100 times, you know, or more, knowing it inside and out, because when the nerves hit, much like being on set acting, you hope that your brain falls back on what it's learned and what you've taught it over and over and over again through repetition, and it saves you. So you hope that happens. Luckily it did. I mean, and then the more you do it, the more comfortable you get, the more risks you take, and it just becomes more fun and less stressful. But there's always stress. Even, you know, every now and then I do a corporate show and I'm petrified. The corporate ones just stress me out so bad, because usually they pay you a lot more money to do it. It's a corporate event. They fly you in, put you up in a nice hotel, and you know they've paid a good penny to have you there. But it's like executives, and they're all very staunch, and you got to be really clean, and you're careful, and you know they put you up in between dinner and dessert, and they're still serving coffee.
Yeah,
it's horrible. The conditions are horrible. Yeah, conditions are horrible, and you got to make the best of it.
Yeah. It's interesting that you say that, because I did stand up a few years ago, well, many years ago now, for the first time. But I vividly remember that first night. And I mean, I've done a lot of scary shit in my career. That was hands down the scariest thing I have ever done in my life, to the point that I was sick. I threw up just before I went on. I remember going to the bar, and the guy was like, "Do you need anything?" And I went, "Yeah, I'll have a double scotch neat," which I chucked back. And just as I got to the stage, the MC was like, "Do you have anything I need to know?" And I was like, "Yeah, don't hand me the mic, leave it in the stand." Because I was shaking so much, and I knew if they saw my hand with the microphone shaking, I was like, they'll tear you to pieces. And I remember nothing. That's all I remember saying. And then like, I was talking, and then somebody laughed, and I was like, and that was it, man. I was like, I'm in. I was like mainlining laughs, you know.
That was it. I can compare it to compare it to sports. If you're a golfer, you can have 17 shitty holes in a row. You get one good one, you're gonna remember, and that's gonna drive you to come back. And it's the same thing with stand-up, where it's like you can have the whole night, your whole set sucked, but one joke killed, and you'll be back.
It's a bit like being an actor.
Some
you can
people
have like 5 years unemployment, one great job. You're like, I'm an actor.
Exactly. Yeah, it's very up and down.
Now, most excellent comics bomb at some point in their career. probably a few
Yeah.
times. How do you bounce back if and when that's happened to you? And certainly probably in the early years, I'm sure now much more adept at handling it. But in the early days, like,
right. It's
how
horrible.
did you bounce back?
It's horrible, especially if you've driven, 8 or 10 hours to a small town and done a show in some horrible bar, and they literally hate you and, throwing things and, swearing at you. They make no bones about it. They let you know they don't like you very quickly.
Yeah.
There's no, do you think they like me? They hated you right away.
Yeah.
And
as you peel the tomato off your face, I think they kind of liked me.
No, there's been times where you consider, it's like, maybe I should just drive home tonight because I'm not going to sleep because I'm so upset about it.
Yeah.
But you got to shake it off in some way or another. And it's the old golf comparison where the next night you do the same show at a different town for different people and it goes great. And you're like, okay, well,
yeah.
I think Jerry Seinfeld said it's never the crowd. Yes, it is sometimes. Sometimes the crowd sucks. Let's be honest. And they're allowed to suck because they paid to be there. So they can either be into it or not into it, or just there for the drinks or there for ladies' night or whatever the reason.
Yeah.
And then that's the worst. Like it used to be the worst in Canada being sent out to do a comedy show in April because it was playoffs, hockey playoffs. And a lot of times they say, oh, we're about to start the game, but first, and they turn the TVs off in this loud bar, it'd send you up and you're like, they're going to kill me. It doesn't matter what I say. They're going to kill me. So they started figuring it out and they put us away in a corner, where there wasn't a TV and try to have us survive that way. But under very harsh conditions, the stand-ups live.
But I love that you still go back to the circuit regularly and you kind of keep your instrument sharp and honed. And I think that's terrific.
I try to. I don't do it as much as I used to, but when I do, I really enjoy it.
Yeah. Well, at the moment it's impossible, but we do what we can, right?
Right.
Now, a little birdie notified me on Twitter about a thing called Talk About, a game show.
Oh, yes.
And I want to know about that.
Okay, so this is a true story. There was a game show in Vancouver years ago called Talk About, and the whole premise of the show was there was two teams of two people, and they would give you 1 minute to talk about a topic, and there were 10 like keywords that they would assume you would bring up while you're talking about the topic. So if it was your topic is houses, and you'd say, okay, windows, doors, a roof, a yard, and then you'd see how many you get. And if you missed any of them, and the other team had a chance to steal if they got one, and that was essentially the show. So me and my friend Phil Hayes, another stand-up comic at the time, got on as contestants. So we had a strategy meeting the night before to figure out how we're going to win, right? Yeah. So we decided that, look, while you're doing your words, the other team has to sit there with headphones on so they can't hear what you're saying, and then they try to steal whatever word. And they go, okay, this is what we're going to do. We're going to go to the grocery store, buy like cans of like beans, pickled eggs, and all that, and just load up. So we're really gassy. So when we have our headphones on, we're going to just unload hell on the other team. And that's how we're going to throw them off. So it was a fart strategy. And then we ended up winning a 55-inch TV.
Because basically you pooped them into submission. Well, not pooped.
We sent them straight the hell out of the... We that was it. Done.
They were like, get them out of here. We don't care.
Yeah, you're going to see contestants on like Jeopardy or something now. Just start lighting it up.
That's brilliant. So, yes, there you go, guys. If you want to win a game show, just...
Just watch what you eat. Load up.
Exactly. Well, moving swiftly along, we're now going to talk about your fantastic voice career. Because you have truly, like, your voice career is insane. You've voiced hundreds of characters, some particularly iconic characters.
Right.
And, well, the first thing I want to know is how you got into voice acting, because it's very different to doing just a sort of standard voiceover where you're, tonight we're selling Mercedes-Benz. So how did you get into that kind of animation side of voice acting?
I think it was back to being a kid and doing all these voices that it was just second nature to me. It's where when you say that, I get very few straight commercials where it's what you just described, saying, you know, new Lincoln Continental, leather seats, that I can imitate it, but it's tough for me to do it with sincerity, if that makes sense. Whereas if it's the character going, you know, I say Campbell soup, you know, I can do that. Always, it's just back to the characters. I love characters of any kind and anywhere. It's the best when in daily life you're walking through your day, not expecting to run into anybody interesting, and then you run into somebody and you get home, you're like, oh my God, they were hilarious. They had no idea they were hilarious. Here's a story about that. I used to work at the Bayshore Inn Hotel, a Westin hotel in Vancouver, and there was a guy who worked there. I don't know what nationality he was, but his English was kind of broken, right? But that didn't stop him from jumping into conversations any chance he had. So he would see like a group of guests at dinner, and then he'd jump in and it's like, how's everybody? How you doing? And then off he'd go, right? And he'd try to be funny, but he would screw up his jokes and they never made any sense. So one time, brilliant character. So one time, this is the real joke. Guy walks into a glass shop and he's got, you know, dark sunglasses on, a cane. He's clearly visually impaired. He's blind, and he's got a seeing eye dog. And he grabs the dog and he starts whipping the dog around the store. It's smashing glass. It's destroying the place. And the owner runs up to him and he goes, "Sir, what do you? Can I help you?" And he goes, "No, I'm you know, just looking." That's the joke. So they tell this guy hears the joke. We're serving dinner at a banquet hall full of tables. He sees a table, runs up. Okay. This guy, he's blind, he cannot see, and he have the dog, the dog see for him, and he go to the glass shop, and he grab the dog, and he turn the dog, he whip in the sky, the dog, and he smash the glass, and the owner say, "Can I help you?" And he said, "Just shopping." And he would fire out the punchline and then leave, because thinking there's going to be a atomic bomb of laughter behind him. And they say, "What do you mean just shop? It makes no sense."
Everyone else going,
"What's what?" And they're just looking at each other. What the hell just happened? So
I love that.
It's characters like that just walk around the earth oblivious, harming nobody, but just loving life, but not making a lot of sense. But it's great.
Absolutely. And that little mental, the Rolodex kind of kicks in, the Rolodex. Look, that's showing my age. The old sort of address book kicks in, doesn't it? And you kind of go, I remember once being in a hairdresser and there was a woman who, she wasn't particularly funny, but I'm always fascinated by accents and dialects. And she had the weirdest accent. And I was like, what the hell is that? And it turned out that she was from Malta, who they have a very Italian cadence in their speech when they talk. But she was so posh. So she obviously had been educated at a terribly, so it came out, this Italian cadence, but a perfect English. And it was so bizarre. And years later, I sort of used her as a character, and somebody came up to me and went, "What the hell inspired that?" And I was like, well, funny you should ask. You know, it's always just kind of keeping it there and making notes.
For sure. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So
it's funny. At a convention once, I was there with Amanda Tapping and a few other actors. It was Stargate convention in the UK, Heathrow. The Edwardian Heathrow convention. And I remember we were on stage and we were talking about accents and things. And I just turned to her and I go, the previous show, not Sanctuary. What was she on before? It was the old sci-fi show where she had an English accent.
I don't know. I should know because I was doing research on her.
Somebody's just blanking here. It went on.
Somebody's saying on. Chevron, come on, help us out.
Yes, but she played
Stargate. No.
Stargates. Somebody's going to fire it up. I'll say it.
Somebody's playing Sanctuary. It must be Sanctuary. Yeah.
It is. That's right. Okay. Thank you, AT Granny. Thank you. And I was saying because she threw on an English accent there, proper English accents, and you have to go back to the Sanctuary.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know, that could have gone very different. You know, because she was chasing like werewolves and things like that. And and I was like, you know, that accent works. Other English accents, not so much. If you were like, look at you, I think I'm a werewolf, Monday at my door.
What do you mean, sanctuary? No.
Oh, you're a vampire. That must be nice.
No, see, that's quite a funny show. We should write that one together, Peter.
English vampires. Hey, right. English ants.
Anyway, I have to hustle us along because
Yes.
it's 9:30 already. So I want to talk about the phenomenon that is Goku.
Yes.
From the Ocean Dub Dragon Ball Z, as you guys say,
Yeah.
Dragon Ball Z for us, I guess, but Z sounds better. I read that, like, still at conventions today, fans come up to you quite literally weeping because of this character that you played and how you portrayed him. So for those of us who don't know, I now know because I was doing a lot of reading about you, but for people who may not know who Goku is and what that was all about, can you tell us and what that experience was like?
Well, it was a Japanese anime show that still continues today in other incarnations, but it still continues today and it's still immensely popular, about a Super Saiyan by the name of Goku that comes to Earth because he's the roundabout thing is the whole storyline revolves around these 7 Dragon Balls, and if you got them, you got this incredible wish that you would be granted to you by a mythical dragon. But there's all these other interesting characters along the way. But so it's 90% fighting of guys in the sky, like, you know, and there's a lot of screaming involved. So when I got the show, I knew a little bit about it, but I didn't know how big it was. And it was a little crazy when I got the role because I took over from Ian Corlett, who's another he's still a very good friend of mine, another great voice actor. So he left the show and I took over from him because we have a similar cadence. And some fans online, it was crazy because some fans hated me. I got a couple of death threats, literally.
What?
Because I took over and then other people liked me. And still to this day, if you search Twitter, like best Goku ever, I see it almost every day. They try to do a poll of who's your favorite Goku. But to me, it's kind of like saying who's your favorite James Bond, who's your favorite Superman, Batman, whatever. It's usually who you grew up with that's who your favorite is. So I had people. I mean, I voiced in the late '90s, very early 2000s. So I had people that are coming up to me with their kids that when their kids were growing up, they would still play their VHS tapes and now DVDs, reliving those moments. And so I got a lot of that. One of the coolest things that I signed, guy comes up and he had a full-size VCR, unplugged. He brought the thing in, and inside was a Dragon Ball Z tape that he played so much that it got stuck in the VCR, and he left it there.
Wow!
And you could see the edge where the title is across you could open up the panel a bit, and there was Dragon Ball Z DVD, and he's like, "I've never removed it. Would you guys sign the VCR?" And I'm like, "Yeah, sure." It was really neat. But other people, you know, crying, saying, "When I grew up, you know, this was one of the big bonding moments that, you know, me and my dad had, that we would watch a show together and we'd look forward to it." And so it's really interesting how, I mean, for us, ideally it's work, but you know, we like doing it, and we're very grateful to be able to be in the entertainment industry. But to a lot of other people, it can mean a lot more, and you don't know. With Stargate, I'm sure you've experienced this, where there's a lot of military people that will come to conventions and give you things like special regiment pins that are just for their regiment. I've received that before.
Yeah.
And when they were recovering in the hospital, saying, "I would watch Stargate, you know, every night to help me through my recovery," and you're like, wow, so you don't know how much your work touches or reaches people sometimes.
Absolutely. And especially now, you know, with streaming and with kind of the generation that first watched Stargate, we've talked about this quite a lot on Hathor Hosts, that the people who were kind of watching it in the 90s, a lot of them now have kids, and their kids' friends are all being introduced to it, and every time it's rescreened. I mean, I had like a 10-year-old recognize me on an airplane going, "Are you Hathor?" I was like, what? You know, so amazing. So just before we get to Stargate, which we definitely have to talk about, I just wanted to talk about 2 other voice jobs that you did. One was, of course, in the seminal series, Ed, and Eddie.
Eddie,
and you played Rolf, which, and was that man at the hotel possibly a slight influence for Rolf?
maybe a little. Yeah, maybe a little bit.
So you had quite a cool audition story for that job, didn't you? Because so tell us about that.
Well, I auditioned for every one of the Eds. So there's 3 Ed brothers, Ed and Eddie, and they're all, I auditioned for every single one.
Mm-hmm.
and didn't get any of them. So it was kind of like, and the other characters like Johnny and Kevin, and I auditioned for all of them, and it was dead in the water.
Yeah.
Like and I was there, and somebody else was auditioning, and I was outside of the studio, and I believe it was Terry Clausen, the director, who still remains a good friend of mine today, ran out and said, Danny, the creator, and myself were having a hell of a time voicing this foreign kid character. So here's the script. Do you want to try it?
Yeah.
And I was like, sure. So I looked at it for about 5 minutes, and they brought me in, and they just wanted it to be an undiscernible accent from an undiscernible place. So what it turned into, it's like, oh, hello, hey boys. What are you doing, hey boys? And it turned into that. So I just did that. They're like, yeah, that's him.
Yeah.
So then it ran for like 11 years.
Yeah, amazing. I mean, it's still like the Cartoon Network's longest running original series or something.
Yeah.
So
I didn't know. I saw you write that, and it was like, wow, I guess it was.
I do my research.
Research.
And then, of course, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I mean, you then went on and voiced one of the most iconic characters ever, as you were Yoda.
That was cool.
Yeah. So tell us about that and how you got that job.
I was a huge Star Wars fan, still am, and it was one of these. They had auditions for a Star Wars Lego, the Yoda Chronicles, the mini movie. So I went in, and I would screw around doing Yoda anyways, but when they bring you in for an audition, you really got to nail it. And and it went in, and I got the part, and it's like, afterwards I'm like, wow, I'm cashing a check from George Lucas. It's you get kind of weirded out going, I don't want to tell them that I would do this for free, but I would. That it's that kind of sense I have for that whole franchise. It's part of my childhood. So much like the fans that come up and see sometimes what we've done, I grew up on that. For me, that was like hollowed ground, going into that studio and just laying down Yoda.
Amazing. Could we have a quick conversation, do you think, between Rolf and Yoda? Or is that
Rolf and Yoda?
Yeah.
What are you doing, tiny, green-skinned, big-eared dead boy? Do not burn the candle at both ends, as it leads to the life of a hairdresser.
No, not what you say I do.
Bravo. Thank you. Oh my God, that made my day. I love it. So we're gonna now move on to Stargate. And again, as I said earlier at the top of the interview, your acting resume is extraordinary because it is so varied, so versatile. I mean, you've done everything from the X-Files, Sliders, The Killing, Eureka, Fringe, NCIS, Beyond, Glow, The Man in the High Castle, on and on and on.
Yeah.
But let's talk about Stargate for a minute, because you were in both SG-1 and in Universe, right?
Yes.
So tell us who you played in both.
Well, I did 2 SG-1s. I played Dave Langdon, who a lot of people believe became Adam Brody. This is a fan theory, because in the episode, in the episode of Dave Langdon that Dave Langdon was involved in, I had stolen some mimic devices, used them, got caught, confessed, and they said, if you help us, then we'll get you off world with a new identity. So a lot of people think that Adam Brody was actually Dave Langdon.
Oh, that's cool. Do you think so?
Yeah, sent to the Icarus. I think that's a really cool theory, because throughout SCU, I mean, we got bits and pieces of who these characters were, but nobody really knew who anybody was deep down. It was a lot of deep angst and drama on SGU, but some of the extra cast members, the supporting cast members, we slowly were starting to learn more about them, and it's too bad we didn't get to learn more, but I think that would have been a really cool theory to expand on.
Yeah, completely. Was it a very different experience working on the SG-1 incarnation of it and then SGU, or did that kind of familial family sort of jovial, fantastic feeling carry all the way through?
Well, I had auditioned for Stargate, the original one, multiple times, where it really got to the point where I told my agent, I said, don't send me out because I'm not going to get it. I don't know what they're looking for, but I'm not getting it. I literally said that. I don't know why you keep sending me. They're not going to hire me. And then I got another audition. I literally said that again. I said, look, I don't know why I'm going. I'll give it a shot. You know, and there was a couple of times where I screwed up early on. I was like, yeah, well, you tell TLC that we're not going down to the planet's surface. It's Teal. Teal. Oh, all right. Okay. Not Teal. It says TLC. All right. But I went and
TLC.
and it was Peter DeLuise directing, which and he ended up doing multiple Stargate.
Yeah, of course.
And he's such a great guy. And I developed the Peter DeLuise impression after working with him because I just love the guy so much. But for DeLuise, he uses words, but it's more the style of what he says to you when he's directing you. You know, you pick up certain words like staccato words, like he'll go, okay, you're coming in. You look, I don't know. You do that, you look there, and you action.
Great, clear.
And then you give it a shot, and then it'll come back. Okay, this time, right? No,
Right.
I don't know what that means, but it's fantastic. It's so much fun working with him. So it was Peter DeLuise, and God bless him, he hired me, and I got that part. And then I think it was the following season, I landed another part on the show, which usually when they hire you once, they either wait a big period of time before they hire you again. They want to mix the cast up. Right. But it involved being under prosthetics for this episode called Space Race, where I was an alien kind of sportscaster. Well, talking like this, but with big alien makeup on.
Right.
And the story there is everything was set to go. There was a whole bunch of lines because they with the makeup they put it on, and we were doing all our stuff in like one day because it was all just to camera, like a sporting event. And the night before, a friend of mine asked me to be a player in a non-contact softball game. I was like, sure, I'll go. So we're playing, and this gal, I don't know who she is, and I never did, but it's no contact, but somebody hit the ball, and I went down to pick it up. I was playing shortstop, and she came into me shoulder first and sent my nose to the other side of my face, smashed it completely, blood everywhere, sent to emergency. And while I'm in emergency, you know, I realized I got to film the next morning, right? And I'm all worried about that. And then they give me cocaine. The doctor goes, well, you're an actor. You probably know what this is. And I'm like, what? So he puts a matchstick of cocaine up there to numb it before they push it back in. I've never had cocaine before in my life, right? So there I am. They wait about 10 minutes, and now I'm flying. I'm bouncing around. I'm ripping curtains open, going, hey, you guys, they got cocaine over here. They're giving it away. You should come over here. And then I run into another actor, Michael Benyer, who's passing a stone. I rip open the curtain. Michael Benyer, there's coke over here. What are you doing here? Passing a stone. Oh, you should get some of this. So there I am, midnight, with a pushed-in nose, with a bar that they put a metal bar over it, making calls at midnight, trying to get a hold of producers, high on coke.
Yeah.
Telling them that I broke my nose and I'll see them in the morning. That's what I'm trying to do at midnight or 1 a.m. So I'm sending messages out, emails, and then I get to set in the morning, and the Stargate producers and stuff, they could not have been nicer. They all heard about it. But they all came into the dressing room or the hair and makeup room, and they're looking at me going, oh, wow, yeah, you got a metal brace. Oh, yeah, look at this. I broke mine when I was with it.
Wow.
And so they said, well, have you seen this alien race before? And the special effects person or the makeup special effects person said, no, we haven't. And they said, well, they're going to have a big nose. So they built the prosthetic on top of the metal bar. So if you go back and watch the episode, I have a huge nose. And I can't breathe, but I have a metal bar underneath, and I manage to do my lines and get through the day.
But I mean, thank goodness it wasn't when you were playing Brody. So Brody was an engineer. Did you have tons of like technical jargon that you had to learn? And how was that?
Yes. It's very difficult. It's much like learning somebody's name in a script because it means nothing to you, especially if it's an unusual name.
Yeah.
So the jargon means nothing to you, but we're supposed to be really intelligent people on the spaceship, engineers. And we have Mika McKinnon, God bless her, on set as our basically technical advisor. Because I would have a big blurb oh, we're gonna slingshot around the sun, and then I was like, so what am I saying? So what am I? And then she'd go, oh, this is the concept of you're gonna slingshot, but the gravitational pull will slingshot you around and then projectile you, so you're not gonna burn fuel. And I was like, got it.
Right.
And we would listen. We're gonna do it. We're gonna do a pull, and we're gonna use the gravitational pull, and then you'd hopefully look authentic and know what the hell you're talking about.
Yeah. But
Hoped.
that's, I mean, thank goodness you had somebody to help break it down. One of the weirdest jobs I ever had was I ended up having to pretend to be a neurologist with another
Right.
actress. And we kept saying, we were like, can't we just sort of say we're actors, you know, doing a presentation? And the director was like, no, I want you to be neurologists. But it was for neurologists. So we were like halfway through the presentation, and the one guy raises his hand to me and he's like, Dr. Schneider, can you tell me about the, and I was like, oh. Because I mean, you know, it's neurology. I was like, you can't mess with that.
You
Anyway.
can't really pick it up. No.
Exactly. So one of the things I wanted to ask, online, when you look about SGU, it clearly is a show that makes people, it's really divisive in the sense that some people are really pro, some really against.
Right.
I know when it started, there was a massive backlash. Were you guys aware of that at the time or not?
Yeah, we were very aware of it. And I think the producers have actually admitted that it was kind of a poor decision to say to the fans at the time, we're canceling this show, we're giving you this show in the same breath. And I think that's what for a loop, because they took something away that a lot of people were still enjoying and loved, and gave them something completely different, basically at the same moment. Like, we're going to take this meal away, we're going to give you this. And it's not to say that one and the other is better or worse, but it was a very different style of Stargate. And I think maybe it just happened quickly for a lot of people, and people took it personally. And yeah, there was a lot of angry comments aimed at the actors, at the producers. Unwarranted, in my opinion. I mean, we were all working very, very hard, and I think towards the end of the first season, the second season, a lot of those people kind of turned around and said, "Oh, okay, well, I'm kind of liking it now."
Exactly.
It came a little bit too late, and I know there was more factors than just people watching in real time. I mean, the whole Nielsen system is kind of irrelevant now with online viewing. It's archaic. And I think we were kind of a victim of that a little bit. And there were some issues with MGM and some of the producers going on. So there's a lot of factors going on. And it's just unfortunate, though, that we didn't get a chance to tell more of the story, because it was the funnest gig I've ever had in my life. I mean, people talk about how kind of dark the show was, but Jesus, if you were there on set with us, like, we were laughing our asses off. Like, it was so much fun. And you can attest to this. I mean, the producers and directors on that franchise, and I don't have to say this, were some of the nicest people I've ever worked with.
Absolutely. And cast and crew.
Yeah, everybody, the cast and crew, absolutely.
You know,
just a nice, really great group of people that I still miss every day. Yeah.
I mean, my sense now, sort of having read quite a lot on both sides of the forums and things like that, is that it definitely seems to have aged like a fine wine. Like, loads of people are now kind of going, oh, I think it might have been a bit before its time, or exactly all those factors that you were talking about. So what was do you remember your sort of final day on set and what that felt like?
I do. And ironically, it was the scene of us going into the stasis chambers. That I believe that was my last day on set. So it was very bittersweet, because it was you know, we were going in not knowing if we were going to come out as actors, you know, not just as characters, but as actors. And it turned out to be that we're still there. I mean, we're still in stasis, and hopefully someday, I don't know. I mean, there's all this talk about some other incarnation of Stargate happening. Everybody hopes that it's something. And so, I mean, I hope that they bring some kind of closure to that moving forward. But maybe they're going to do, you know, a throwback series from the past, or way in the future. Who knows what they have planned? I don't know if they know what they have planned. They've been very tight-lipped about it for a long time. So a lot of people are waiting for something. And I hope they cinch up a bit of that storyline. That'd be, or at least reference it, or maybe bring back some of the characters. Like some people died, and you get to see the other people 10 years after. referencing what happened or something.
Yeah.
I think fans deserve it. People that love that franchise deserve some sort of button at the end of that storyline, something.
Yeah, and clearly I think there is still very much a desire and a need for that. I'm acutely aware of the time. We are meant to hand over now, but I just want to quickly, before we do that, I wanted to talk about Beyond and Yellow Jacket, or the man in the yellow jacket.
Right.
What an amazing role. And I watched quite a bit in the week that I was sort of preparing to interview you. You're like properly scary in this role. So can you tell us how the role came to you?
It was an audition. We were in LA, and me and my wife's an actor as well, so we run scenes and stuff together and self tapes. And so I'm very lucky that way to have a great set of eyes to help me out in that way. And we recorded it in front of our dining room table, which has been a good luck spot for auditions.
Yeah.
And sent it in, and literally 2.5 months went by. So I had written it off, and then my agent called and said, "Hey, remember that Beyond thing? I think you might be going your way." And I'm like, "What? Oh, that one, right?" Because essentially, initially the role was described as large man, because it was supposed to be a large, imposing assassin, and then Dorff decided maybe late in the process to go against type and say, well, what if he had a guy that wasn't as imposing physically, but portrayed that in another way? So I just did the audition and sent it off, and then the next thing I know, I got it, and then they aired the pilot, and that they liked that, and then it went to series, and I was only supposed to be, I think, kind of a very peripheral character that showed up like 1 or 2 episodes, and I think they Yellow Jacket impressed in his own way, in his own weird way.
Yeah. Well, you were
right
so
people.
I think 2 things. One is that you were so unnerving because you never really know, and then I think that's way more scary than a big kind of ominous, like, hey, I'm a bad guy, because you never know. It's like, oh my God, are they going to go this way or that way? It's slightly psychotic. And
you know what's funny is you say that is I remember this, a friend of mine who is a great actor. He's a big guy, and in his younger days he used to be a bouncer at nightclubs.
Right.
And I remember he told me, and this echoed when I was doing that audition. He said, if there was guys outside that want to fight you, and you go outside with them, and he goes, the guy that was like, yeah, come on, you never worried about him. It was the guy that would just look at you and go, let's do it.
Yeah.
That's the guy you worry about. So
exactly.
Being big and screaming and loud and all that is a lot of times just a show. But if you're truly not scared and you've got some crazy in your eyes, because Yellow Jacket, a lot of times, I spent a lot of time. Well, for me, I would do this a lot, just my own process of, if I was having a conversation with somebody, and this is when you get weirded out, I think, when you meet somebody new, like we're talking to each other, and you say, oh, where are you from? Oh, I'm from Detroit. But if I just give a little pause before that, it makes it really strange. So it's like, where are you from? Detroit. Well, now you want to know, well, what
exactly. You're like, oh, what? Yeah.
Why did you leave? Are you not allowed to go back? And suddenly that 1 second produces this world of questions. And that character, they gave me the latitude I kept doing scenes in that show, and I kept waiting for them to come over and go, listen, you gotta, and they never did.
No, because in the words of Adam, is it Nussdorf? He said that when you came in to read, he knew immediately that they'd found their villain, because he said you just had this kind of deadpan, and he said you brought things to the character that he'd never even considered. So props, dude.
That was the coolest role I've got to do ever, because of the against type thing, and he had this duality of, he had a family with a young daughter at home, and
which was also really creepy.
Yeah, after just killing somebody in the forest, and then he'd go home and just hey, and they had no idea what he was doing or what he did. And it was a great role for an actor to take advantage of.
Well, you clearly were doing something right, because you won 2 Leo Awards for that role. So how was that experience?
It was pretty awesome, and I was hosting the first one. I was hosting the event, so I'm backstage anyways, and then they announced the categories and the nominees, and it was like, oh, I won. Like, just
I love that.
Yeah, I haven't won a lot of awards in my life, and so it was very gratifying to just be to be recognized. I mean, whether you're nominated or win and all that, just being recognized is by your peers in a room of people that you respect. It sounds corny, but it really does mean something, and it meant something to that role too, because I really felt strongly about that role. I worked hard at it, and I really enjoyed that character.
And you didn't have to do the kind of like, oh, yeah, I haven't won, but how nice that they have. You could be like, yes, it's me.
Oh yeah, I was very happy. And then nervous. Like I've seen award shows where people give a speech, like, oh, they're blabbing on. I was nervous when I was up. I don't know what to say. Like, they prepare a speech kind of thing as a last resort. So you're like, I guess I'll get that. I don't even know what the hell's in the piece of paper. Thank you. I'm sure I forgot somebody, and I gotta go. Thanks. You're kind of thrown.
Well, you are really, for anyone who hasn't watched it, it's on Netflix, and really Peter is sublime in it, and properly scary. I'm going to do one last little thing, and then we need to hand over to questions. Sure. I wanted to ask you about Glow. I mean, it's my favorite series ever. That is like my dream job. I'm desperate to get into that wrestling ring.
Yeah.
What a fantastic experience that must have been. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I was in LA, and I read for a previous role in it, and it looked like it was going to go my way, and I didn't get it in the very first season. The first few episodes didn't get it, and then I read again, and it looked like it was going my way, and I didn't get it, and then I got read it a third time, and then it went my way.
Yeah.
And I just had a couple of small scenes. They thought it might recur, but they didn't know, and it ended up not recurring. But I got a couple episodes out of it, and but doing scenes with Betty Gilpin and Alison Brie, and they were so amazing. Me and my wife are huge fans of that show, so seeing them in person, it was kind of, you're a little starstruck, sometimes on set, and you're like, wow. And then I look, and it's there they are, and you're thrown, but they were so nice, and I had more dialogue with Alison Brie, and she couldn't have been nicer. And then this year, just a few months ago, I got to work with Dave Franco, who was married to her in real life. And I said, I got to your wife on the show, and what a sweetheart. And he's like, yeah, she's pretty great. She's pretty great. Yeah. And he was an extremely nice guy too. So, I mean, what a couple. Extremely, extremely nice.
Oh, and what an amazing thing to be a part of. And I'm just saying, if you get back, I was sort of hoping that you might be like Mark Maron's long lost cousin or something, like that character twist. I think we need to write that plot line.
Yeah. Oh, and true. Plus, when I was there that day, Gina Davis was there.
Oh my God.
You're like, sometimes you just pinch yourself on set. You're like, that's I'm working with so and so, like, right now. It's really wild.
Yeah.
People you really respect and just grew up watching is like, wow, it's really cool.
That is really, really cool. And so on that, we are going to hand over to some questions. There's one that's come up there. If anyone's got any questions, now's the time, send them in. So the first person has said, in the episode Common Descent, you get to be a bit of a bad guy. Did you enjoy this direction for the character?
I did. And I think by bad guy, they mean the old Brody, I believe. I think I'm getting the episode correct.
I'm not sure. I'm sorry.
No, I believe that.
I should know.
If I'm not mistaken here.
I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that was the scene they're talking about, where it's like I play an old version of myself. If I'm not screwing this up, an old version of myself, where I'm really cranky old Brody, and it was hours of old person makeup, and I'm like, I'm very grumpy and bitching about all these kids dancing on my lawn. It was. And I heard afterwards that it was a caricature of Carl Binder that they said. And Carl Binder, one of the producers on the show, and I guess if you didn't know him, I guess he could come across a little gruff, but he was the guy that was the most fun. If we had like cast crew dinners, like we went to Toronto, we got to sit beside Carl, and we couldn't have been happier because he's such a great guy and so funny, and he's one of our favorites. So it's funny that they said that, oh yeah, he's loosely based on an old Carl Binder.
That is funny, yeah. Somebody's just come up saying, how long did it take to apply the prosthetics on Space Race and to remove?
Oh, Common Descent. It was when I Hate the Kids at the end. Yes, it was. I did get that right. I believe the makeup was around 4 hours, I think.
Wow. That's never fun because you're the first person in the chair then usually, aren't you?
Yeah, and it wasn't just the face, but they turned the hair into, I look like Albert Einstein, some people said there, and I look back and I kind of do, because they had the mustache and the hair was all over the place. And although they tried to get it out at the end of the day, I had a couple of days in that stuff, and I couldn't get it out at night, and I tried to call them at midnight going, how do you get this stuff out? Like they tried a long day, and they were like, oh yeah, it's baby oil. Okay, so I'm washing my hair baby oil at 1 a.m. and headed back to set the next day. The old person making it on everything was amazing. It was incredible.
Sorry, say that again.
The old person makeup that they applied on everybody, like Louis and Ming Na's, was phenomenal. The makeup, hair, incredible.
So one question has come up here. Let me see if I can. What regimental coins do you have?
Geez, I cannot remember, but I keep every single. In fact, I have one right in behind here right now. I'm sorry, I can't recall the exact ones, but we do. This is what the cool thing at conventions, you do get given these things, and try to say I keep every single one, and I don't have a dedicated cabinet for Stargate yet, but I have everything that I had from. In fact, I have this was my official canteen, and they wrote this was thinking Patrick Gilmore. He got them to say. Please check with the AD before noking. He couldn't even spell knocking. Right. It's not noking. He can't spell, Gilmore. So yeah, we would screw around with each other from time to time, and they ran off and tagged this thing for me. But I keep all that stuff.
That's so cool. I mean, I stupidly didn't keep anything except some earrings, which I now don't know where they are. Do you still make SGU dog tags?
Well, I had them made because I kind of put myself in charge of organizing the crew gifts for both the first and second season. Right. So I have them. We just made the run of them then, and because of spillage, when factories make these things, sometimes you get less or more. But we had very little spillage, so there were a number of extras. I can't remember how many, like 30 or something. Right. So I think throughout the conventions that I go to, I still sell some of the extra ones, and I think I'm down to maybe 5. So the next Stargate convention I go to, I'll bring them, and then that's it. I've kept, I think, 2 or 3 for myself just to mount on behind glass somewhere. But I think they turned out so good. A friend of mine had a company that did them, and they turned out amazing.
Amazing. Well, I see we're being given the countdown now. So our time is up, unfortunately. I'm going to have to learn to speak faster, I think, so we can get more questions in. Peter, thank you so much for your time. And
Thank you.
It's my pleasure. I've had a ball. I've really enjoyed it. Loved getting to know you better through your CV, and, of course, being able to chat to you like this.
Well, it was great. Thanks for having me. And yeah, the time went by too fast. We'll have to do it again.
I agree. I know. We need to do them like an hour and a half, I think.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much, and enjoy the rest of your day. Stay safe. And
you too.
I will see you soon, I hope.
I hope so too. Thanks a lot, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Take care.
Take care, Peter. And guys, just before I go, I just wanted to say thank you very, very much again for tuning in. The interview will be up on IGTV and then also on my new YouTube channel, which is very exciting. Next week, Elena Huffman, fantastic as well. And thank you again for my beautiful theme tune, which I forgot to play tonight, so I'm going to play it afterwards. Thanks again, guys. You have all been amazing for watching, for tuning in. Hi, Abby. And really fab to see you all. Stay safe, everyone. Have a great afternoon, great evening, great morning. Mwah! You guys are the best. Thank you. Bye.